Just see if it works. Yes, it does. So it is our time. Let's do a prayer. We start with good vibes. Father, that art in heaven, here we are together once more in this study, talking about mediumship and everything that comes with it, our responsibilities, the risks, what it can do, how we can do. Give us the right intuition, open our hearts, our minds to perceive the message that Kardec brought to us. Be with us through this study and always. So be it. Let me share with you a book. No, of course, it's not working. So bear with me for a minute and I will have to reopen the book. And back here. Now I'll be able to share the book. I believe you all can see the book. Let me make it a bit bigger. Today we are starting on the item 249, means of combating obsession. I think it's worth reminding us all that obsession is something that we all can face a moment or another in our lives. Obsession is something that mediums or people that we do not call mediums. And why I'm saying that? Because we all human beings are mediums to a certain extent. But in general, we call them mediums those who have those faculties more present in their lives. So anyone can have an obsession through their lives. A medium will perceive those spiritual influences in a different degree. And that's why I always like to say that when we do face a obsession or a more serious obsession case, chances are that the person that is involved is a medium. He or she may do not know, but probably they are. So, as ever, feel free to make questions and comments, and we're going to be starting now. 249. The means of combating obsession vary depending on the characteristics in which it appears. We also said that there are so many different degrees of obsessions that we cannot elaborate a book describing every single degree of obsession. There is no real danger for all mediums who are good and convinced that they are dealing with a deceiving spirit, which is the case in a simple obsession. I will take those words from Kardec, and I would say that we need to take seriously any degree of obsession, because from one degree it can evolve to another degree, and that is not positive. That is even more complicated, because it means that we are not observing what is happening with us, and we are not paying attention enough to overcome our situations. It is nothing more than a disagreeable situation. However, precisely by being disagreeable, such spirits have one more reason to persecute their victims in order to humiliate them. I also like to remind us all that we are surrounded by spirits 24/7, and we are under their influences, good or bad, also good part of our day. So it's up to us to receive those influences, and it's up to us to allow bad influences to remain with us, to create roots. Let me do something here, because I cannot see you all. So if anybody raise a hand, I will not be able to see. So I stop sharing for a moment. Let me organize my screens here. I forget, because every time I have a screens, more than one here, I gotta be lost. The setup is okay for work, but for a call may not be there. Okay. But now I think I'll be able to see you all. So let me put that here. Let me try to see. Yes. Sorry for that. 2 essential measures must be taken by mediums in such a case. Prove to the spirit that they have not been fooled by it, and that is impossible that they will allow themselves to be fooled. Second, tire its patience by showing it that they have more patience than it has. I think we can do that when we are aware that we are under such a scenario, such a situation. I think that we can do that if we learn few tools to allow us to do that. But may not be possible to everyone. When it is convinced that it is wasting its time, it will end up withdrawing, just as in the case of importunate individuals when no one will listen to them. It's worth to mention that that is a very mild obsession case here, right?
Mhm.
And I would not even call an obsession, I would call an influence, right? Same formula will not work in a more elevated degree of obsession, okay? Nonetheless, this is not always enough, and such spirits can linger for a long time. When we're talking about a long time, we sometimes face cases of an obsession that lasts for decades, right? It can last from one life to another. from the spiritual world to the incarnated world, and vice versa. So time cannot be defined in an obsession case. But as soon as the case is identified, we must put some additional effort to try to solve it, because we don't want that to extend for decades and decades and decades, right? It's better to resolve as soon as we can and prevent new obsessions as well. Why I'm saying that? Let's be in a forum, in a blog, for example, where everybody disclose their own opinion about everything in life. My opinion may be different than Munir's opinion. And that perhaps could be a trigger already to start a single, mild process. And as we move along, every time when I face again the same person, I will add a little bit more, to the point that I may don't want to see that person anymore. To the point that I want this person to disappear from my life. To the point that every time when I see that person, I may feel very angry. And when I do feel very angry, what do? I send bad energy to him. And perhaps I am starting a process that I cannot control anymore. So we need to be careful. Hi, Denise.
So every simple, every obsession or even further, it starts with the influence of the spirits that, as you're saying, slowly start putting messages on our head, yeah? Is that right? So like obsession is start the influence. So the way to go is that if you start, you have to be vigilant with your thoughts and cut it now, the influence of it when you start having these ideas. It's just like 24 hours job.
It is. It is a 24-hour job. And I need first to remind us all that we are also spirits. Mm-hmm. I can be the trigger of an obsession case. The example I just used in Munir, myself, I'm incarnated.
Yeah.
And I am starting the process. All right? So a spirit, incarnate or discarnated, could be the trigger for an obsession case, right? And yes, you're right. It's a 24/7 job, because anything we do and we say can be the trigger. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, let me do another example here. We went to a McDonald's, right? And that very same day, the person who was giving us our sandwich was very angry already for some reason. He threw our sandwiches, basically. And I said something nasty to him because I'm a very positive person. That's the way I like to see myself. I'm not angry. I'm nothing. I'm just positive. I just say my mind, right? And he replied. And when he replied with bad thoughts, bad energy. If he was that angry, chances are that he already had some spirits around him. And now, maybe one or some of them, they also want to have a go with me, right? You haven't said anything about the way he behaved with Akasha. I was the main target. But for some reason, because I was, they could not reach me. But they could reach you. And start a process annoying you so you can annoy me, right? And so on. So anything can be a trigger for a mild obsession, right? And this obsession could last. Let's assume that we work together in this company that is like 100 feet away from that McDonald's, and every day, 12 o'clock, we go over there to buy a sandwich. So we'll be facing that person every day for the next 365 days. Chances are that the person will send very bad thought again for the whole year for us. So you see, we cannot predict how long we will last, when we will start, on anything. But let's assume now another picture. He throws the sandwich on us. I was angry. You were not happy, but we didn't say anything. Thank you. We just say thank you and we left. Chances are that we would leave the cashier without any harm or any future harm to ourselves. Right? So we need to learn how to behave ourselves. That's the first thing to prevent future problems. Right? And that's very difficult because, as I said, I'm very positive. I am in my right to say what I'm thinking. I'm paying here. He's my servant. Yes. But then he's already in trouble, and you just bought some trouble for yourself. And let's continue a little story. I went to my home with my wife, my kids, and those spirits came to me and they start to annoy my kids. You went to your home, to your husband, to your kids, and they also start to annoy your husband. You see, so that is a process that we ignore very often. Even when we know, we ignore. But we should be very attentive, because a mild obsession may be the crack in your shield that will allow a more deepened case to settle. Right? Hi, Liz.
I just wanted to mention some things that can go viral in any environment that really can affect us, like the habit of some people that complains a lot. That for me is something that really, I have to say, I am quite weak for this virus, and I feel uncomfortable if there is too much complaint, because I'm always going to be like, let's see the bright side, let's see the bright side. So there are some things that us all as human beings do, little things that can be, I wouldn't say triggering, but I would say that could infect an environment like that. And we have to be very vigilant all the time to kind of not to be so affected by such a thing sometimes, which would, begin a process like this slowly, wouldn't it?
I'm trying to remember where I saw one comment from a shrink saying that if you remain beside someone that's complaining for an hour, our brain will emit some toxins that will need like 24 hours to get rid of it. Right? So yes, complaining is a problem and is a disease, right? And that's something that we all do.
And what do you do, Guilherme, when you live with someone like this? It's really difficult.
It is.
Yeah.
I have a situation like that in my family.
And especially if the person don't want to do any self reflection. It's really difficult, very difficult.
It's very difficult. And is in this situation where we who have a little knowledge about the consequences of it, we need to go an extra mile, because it's difficult. It's very difficult. It's annoying. Will create a bad energy, will irritate us, and then we create a crack in our shields. And perhaps this person, he is really complaining about everything because there's someone in his or her ears pushing to complain about everything, because that's the way they found to destabilize you, right? And it does happen more often than we think. So yes, it is a problem. It's a problem, and we need to be very careful. So I think that I gave a clear picture to you all that mild obsession case can happen everywhere. Hi, Osoli.
I would like to talk good English, but I try to talk. So indeed, yeah, I think when it happens in the things, at that then the spirit fall. It's following my pace, my foot follow me over time. I think I don't know it is it's just the way, but I very think that first I think I would try to construct one use and circle of the use around him, around me too, together, because I attracted him. In fact, in me, I did, and maybe no conscious, but I did, and I don't know if the same is who you talk about now, but and to do. Of course, pray too much, pray, and do the good things. Go and help works with some kind of organization to do something there, but from your heart, because these spirits, I think, sometimes they disappear, but they can take a long time. Yes, they can take a long time, but as soon they see it, no, I can't do something here. But if it was an enemy, a personal life, this is another thing. This is very, very, very difficult, but not impossible, because with healing and the talk and the healer and talk with their spirits too, as soon it all go away. I think so, but I'm not sure. I would like to know about Guilherme. What do you think?
We'll know those answers as we go along with the book, because all the answers are there, all right? So I don't want to create any spoiler at the moment, all right? But I would take what Osoli said, and yes, prayer is one of the tools we have to give us that protection. But one thing that we all normally forget is that it doesn't work if I pray 1 hour and if I do wrong things for 20 hours. Doesn't work like that, right? I will pray so I want the spirits to go away. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't, right? We need first to evaluate what we have done that allow this or those spirits to come closer to me. And when I do realize what I have done or what I do every day, I need first to fix it. I need first to do my best effort to remediate the root cause. And then, yes, the prayer will help. And quite often, and we are only talking about mild cases, right? Very mild cases. And will only work if I'm honest with myself and understand that I should pray for them, not for me. I should pray for them so they can find the assistance they need. Because very often, amongst the spiritists, amongst non-spiritists, we pray this very important religious act. We pray for us. We pray for us. But
That's I mean.
in
This is
the,
I mean when I talk about we must pray with our heart to this, then the spirit to together, because it may be something I did it, but I don't remember now. But I did in another life. So and he is a good children too. So now we pray, and he notes that I prayed from my heart. Guilherme, when I come mediunity to me also, I sat in my saying because I found that I found somebody there, but not good because this energy was not good energy. And what I did, I said, I talked to this spirit, and talked, and I opened Evangelho. I said, okay, you don't go, but we can read it together, Evangelho. And this was one wonderful way too, because it disappeared. It's some disappeared, but then he heard it too, because I listened, I read it. He heard voice, voice. So this is one resource. I find you. I find it myself. This one, and I think it was good, but the fourth time it's the last first time. No, another time. So the sentence disappear. So can say no, I don't want to do something to her, but I worked it with people in need.
very good. Very good. So let me continue a little bit more. Nonetheless, this is not always enough, and such spirits can linger for a long time. There are some who are so tenacious that months and years meant little to them. Furthermore, mediums must fervently appeal to the guardian angel and the good spirits with whom they have affinity, praying for their assistance. Again, we can ask our benefactors, we can ask our spiritual friends, our guardian angels. You can call whoever you want to call, right? But they have limited power if we don't do what we must do, right? They cannot do what is meant to us to do, right? We need to be conscious about that, because there's a lot of people that pray and do nothing, thinking they are just praying and they are fixing their problems with the prayer, and they are not. As for the obsessing spirit, no matter how evil it may be, it is necessary to deal with it strictly, but at the same time benevolently, overcoming with goodness and praying for it. If it is a truly wicked spirit, it will at first laugh at all this, but perseveringly, oh dear,
Perseveringly.
oh dear, yes, good for you. Submitted to a process of moralization. It will end up amending itself. It is a conversion to be undertaken, an often painful, difficult task, but whose merit is in its very difficulty. And when it has been well performed, it always brings the satisfaction of having fulfilled a duty of charity, and frequently of having brought a lost soul back to the path of goodness. It is also worthwhile to suspend written communications when we realize that they proceed from an evil spirit who does not want to see reason in order not to give the pleasure of being heard. I'm highlighting this because I don't want you guys to think that you only need to write beautiful messages from elevated spirits. That's not what he's saying. Right? Many suffering spirits, they will come into the mediumship meeting and they will write complicated messages, even nasty messages. And that is the duty of the medium to receive those messages. Because when he or she is writing the message, the contact with the fluids is also helping them, right? He is specific for a case where has been identified an obsession case. And if it has been identified an obsession case, it will be treated accordingly, right? But many people will take parts of the test and use for their own benefit. I will only receive enlightened spirits. If you are not a nice spirit, I will not allow you to write. Again, this is not what is written here. In certain cases, it may even be worthwhile to stop writing altogether for some time, depending on the particular circumstances. However, if your writing mediums can thus avoid such a conversations by abstaining from writing, the same cannot be said of hearing mediums, whom obsessing spirits sometimes persecute at every instant with gross and obscene blathering, and who do not have the option of plugging their ears. It's a nice example, right? Moreover, we must realize that certain individuals are actually entertained by the trivial language of this type of spirits, who encourage and provokes them to laugh at its silliness, rather than imposing silence upon it and guiding it morally. Our counsels cannot be applied to those who want to drown themselves. Therefore, a simple obsession, there is only annoyance and no real danger to all mediums who do not allow themselves to be deceived, since they cannot be misled. We all can be deceived, we all can be misled. Behold, we are not special. We can be caught with short pants, and quite often, even if somebody comes to us saying to us that what you passing as a message is not real or is not the right one, we'll come back to them and we'll isolate them, because we are always right. Human beings are always right. And we have problems, difficulties to hear anyone that say otherwise. However, precisely the opposite occurs with fascination. For them, the domination of these spirits over the victims is limitless. Pay attention on this word, limitless. And I hope you never have to face one, but you see things that are very complicated, right? And sometimes people consider fascination, and it's not fascination. It's a degree of obsession, but it's not fascination. fascination, you lose completely even your physical control. The spirits can control you physically, moving you left to right, behaving like an animal. It is possible. Again, I hope you don't have to see that. The only thing to do is to convince the victims that they have been deceived and to regress the obsession to the degree of a simple obsession. So this is very important, because the same way an obsession can progress, it will not disappear like that. There's no magic wand, right? So you will reduce the degree of obsession before it's gone, all right? This is not always easy and sometimes impossible. It's sometimes impossible. I believe that for God, nothing is impossible. And if we do our part, if we truly do our part, the universe will conspire in our favor. Good spirits will conspire in our favor. But again, we need to do our part. If I believe that something is impossible, I have a problem. I'm speaking by myself. I have a problem. I believe things are possible. And there's a lot of people in the Spiritist movement that believe a lot of things are impossible. Even when they see, even when they witness, even when they experience the phenomena, still believe things are impossible. But that's a word that we need to be very careful to use. Because what was impossible yesterday, science proved today that it's possible. The ascendancy of such spirits over the victims is such that they make them deaf to all reasoning. Deaf to all reasoning. And that could be for many reasons. First, I like what I'm saying. I'm advocating one topic. Talks to me, that topic. I create a truth about what I like to see, what I like to hear. But that's my truth. And then the spirits may use that against you. You be closed within your truth for too long, to the point that any other different point of view you try to shut down. You will not listen. So we need to be very careful, because as the process evolves, quite often we don't perceive that is happening. We don't. People around us may start to perceive, but we don't, until when it's too late. When let's say I will advocate one topic here in this group. Yeah, I start to advocate this topic in 2024, 2025, 2026. Let's say 2027. This truth was so strong that I tried to convince you all about my truth. 2028, 2029, you were very patient with me for years. Until the date I decide to exclude you guys, or you decide to exclude me because it became unbearable. Don't we see that in our lives from time to time? Any topic. Any topic. And if you talk about spiritism, it could be any spiritist topic. That's my truth. That's also why I always recommend people to go to Kardec and to go to books with the reliable mediums with reliable spirits. Because let's assume that I start to write books from 2024 until 2028 about this truth. I may convince a lot of people of my truth. And I could be under influence of a spirit or a group of spirit. Right? So we need to be very vigilant all the time. And they can even reach the point of doubting the judgments of science when such spirits commit some blatant scientific heresy. And this I like very much, because I like the scientific part of Spiritism, right? Scientific heresy. Even like that is we need to be very careful. What could be considered as an heresy, scientific heresy, 50 years ago, today maybe not. Today maybe not. And that is was one of the famous people though in history. He used to say that science only evolved when the scientist died. That means new scientists with new perspective, new point of view, because they are alive, they are able to promote new point of view, new perceptions, new realities. So what was true in science 50 years ago may not be true today. And I bring that to the Spiritism. How many Spiritists, they really would say to us that what we do, like virtual mediumship meeting, will not work, is not safe, cannot be done? How many? Quite a lot. And we've proven otherwise. But those that are defending that is not possible, is wrong, blah, 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 they may defend until the end of their lives. Only new generations having the access to this information, to this new reality, may be able to accept that in a different way. So it is the same. Another point of view on the Spiritism. You, to become a medium, you need to go what I call to the Spiritist University. You need to study Spiritism for 30 years before you even consider asking for a seat on a mediumship meeting. Really? Is that true? So I think I give plenty of examples about how careful we need to be about our own truth, right? But if we are proving what we are preaching with the tools we have today, with the science we have today, is the best we can do. Because even what we are proving today with the tools we have today, in 50 years' time, maybe not be true anymore, because we have all the tools, we have all the instruments, we have more information that we do not have today. And this is called the law of progress. The Kardec brought that clearly to us, right? As we have already stated, those who are fascinated normally do not take advice very well. We don't take advice very well and we are not obsessed. These are the great majority of human beings. Because we are autonomous beings. We are the ones that have our own truth. That's in a normal case. If I am under a degree of obsession, it will be even worse. Criticism upsets and irritates them. And they intensely dislike those who do not share their admiration. We need to be very careful with the criticism. Before I criticize, first, I need to make my own opinion. But if it's just an opinion, that's it. It's just an opinion. has no weight in the balance. It's just your opinion. Opinion, everyone has one different, but it's just one opinion. If we want to criticize someone, we need first to study about the subject that we are planning to criticize. If we don't, it's better not say anything, because it will be just one opinion. If I want to criticize about something, I would recommend to study about the subject and to leave the subject. Experience what you want to talk about. Then you do have a decent support to your claims. Otherwise, it is just an opinion. To suspect the obsessor is almost blasphemy to them, which is exactly what the spirit wants, to make them kneel before its words. I think I gave an example here before. I'm not going to be repeating myself again. But yes, we need to be very careful. I'm not saying that a very knowledgeable spirit, a very well-known spirit will never communicate. No. But we need to evaluate thoroughly what is coming from any medium. Even my intuitions need to be evaluated, because my intuitions could be the results of an evil spirit trying to play me. Everything needs to be evaluated, right? One of those spirits exerted an extraordinary fascination over a person of our acquaintance. We evoke it, and after some boastfulness, and seeing that it could not fool us as to its identity, it confesses that it had assumed a false name. So I have two things to speak here. I would not recommend to evoke when a spirit like that. Because to evoke is very simple to evoke. But do I have what it takes to handle this spirit? That's the question. Only putting a name in a piece of paper and giving to a group to put in the spirit center is an evocation already, as I have explained. A more intense evocation is when I'm in a mediumship meeting and I call his name specifically because I would like to talk to him. And perhaps the degree of knowledge, of energy, of anger will be too much for that group. That group will not be able to handle the presence of that particular spirit. So I would recommend, if you people want, that's fine, put the name on the book or on the list or whatever, and allow the spiritual guides who organize the mediumship meeting to decide if they can bring or not this spirit. Because perhaps that person that is also suffering the obsession, he or she may need to go through it. Perhaps, despite the suffering consequences of the obsession, the person is still doing everything wrong and will not stop it. Even if you preach in the years, for years, they will not stop it. They will continue doing it. So I prefer to rely on the benefactors that we work with and let them decide if they need or not to bring the spirit. And the other thing on this sentence is false name, false name. we need to be careful too. Message, verbal, written, or whatever, with name doesn't mean anything. The content of the message will define if the name is correct or not. The objective of the meeting, the objective of the people working around it, that's a different matter. We ask it why it has been abusing this individual so much, and it is responded with these words, which clearly reveal the character of this kind of spirit. I looked for a man I could handle. I have found him, and I shall remain with him. And this sentence is very wide. I will paint a scenario here. I went to a pub to have my drink, one drink. And this spirit was there, waiting for his prayer, his prey. And I arrived in the pub. And when I left, he left with me. And now that he found someone he can handle, he or she will be with me for a while. And you see that I don't refer to spirit as it. I refer as he or she, because I understand the spirit is a being like we are, not a thing. This is an example. How long he will be with me? God knows how long. God knows how long. Again, make your gospel at home. That could be the difference between a spirit will stay with you longer or not. Okay, change your behavior. This can be a difference between how long he or she will be with you. But if we enlighten him about you, he will make you go away. Not always. Not always. Well, we'll just see about that. Here we go. Here we go. We now have a problem. We have a battle now. And this is also very important for the indoctrinators, because sometimes the indoctrinators think that the conversation they are having with the spirit becomes a battle. It's a win-win situation. I have to win. No, there's no such a thing. It's not a battle, and no one wins. And you are not there to win anything. You're there to help. That is your duty, to help. Right? But now that we have a spirit that has been irritated about someone, he probably will be more intense in what he does, he or she does. And this also happens when we start to get closer to a spirit center, when we start to get closer to a charitable activity, when we decide to practice our mediumship, when we decide to help someone. Those spirits may not be helping us. Quite often they would not help, and they would do exactly the opposite. They would do anything they can in their power to prevent us to start a charitable activity, to prevent us to go to spirit center, to prevent us to practice our mediumship, to prevent us to evolve. And quite often they are not alone. It's a group. It's a group. So going back to what we spoke in the beginning of today's study, we need to be very attentive in what we think, in what we say, what we do. It's a very difficult task, but it can and will have an impact if we face an obsession situation. Since there is no one as blind as those who do not want to see, then when we realize the futility of our attempts to open the eyes of those who are fascinated, it is best to simply leave them alone with a delusion. It is a difficult call. It is a difficult call. But I would say that we must try everything we could before we come to that conclusion. Hi, Liz.
I agree with you, Guilherme. It's a difficult call, especially because in our small-mindedness as a human beings, imperfect as we are, we think that we are the ones who control everything. So if we understand that all of us are seen and looked after by God, and there are many spirits evolutionarily above from us, and they don't leave us alone either. So then it's a little bit more comforting for us to kind of stay in a distance from these brothers and sisters that are suffering from any ill. Like, especially if you have, for example, a family member or someone that you tried so much and so hard to come away from a situation, and you know that those situations, for example, alcoholism, it's really difficult to kind of open people's eyes for things sometimes. So then you just need to trust in God and keep sending as much as you can away and letting them to see by themselves.
Liz, I think we have a duty to help, but we also have to respect their free will sometimes. Right? As I said in the beginning, I prefer to leave some decisions to the spiritual guides to bring on a spirit to a meeting, because they have a better vision of what's going on, right? And if you do have access to one benefactor, when the situation is coming to a point where you cannot have will to help anymore, or not, you don't have the strength to help anymore, maybe asking, what should I do? Because sometimes they will say, well, let it go. This person needs to learn in a different way, or still need to pass through a longer period of suffering to understand. So yeah, there are the possibilities, and it's hard. But the most complicated for me, at least, is to help, and we'll see that in the next weekend, is to help people that don't want to be helped. And then there are so many different excuses not to be helped. And the only thing where we need to be very careful ourselves is not to create excuses to us not to help. Right? If the person wants to create excuse not to be helped, the burden is on him or her. But with what we have learned, with the tools that Spiritism brought to us to help someone, if you do not help, we are also part of it. And that becomes part of your burden in the future. So it's a tricky situation, and it's very difficult to find a balance. But eventually, we all will face such a dilemma, because this is part of life. This is part of life. So, as we are about to finish, and I'm speaking to Liz. Liz, can you do our final prayer?
Yes. So let's all close our eyes and with gratitude say together, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, dear Master, for allowing us this moment in the name of our Father, protecting us, blessing us, and helping us to understand a little bit more about mediumship and its consequences and how we can do better to improve it in our own lives. And thank you very much for the opportunity of fraternally study it and discuss it, and for protecting us and encourage us to continue in this path. Please bless us all, our homes, our families, and may we have a lovely week ahead where we can also continue reflect on what we have learned today. Thank you very much. So be it.
Thank you, Liz. So everyone, let's have a wonderful weekend and see you all next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.